Ever felt the presence of something unexplainable? Stay tuned to uncover chilling tales from others who have.
It's late at night, well past the rush hour frenzy. I'm standing alone on a nearly deserted subway platform, the air thick with silence, except for the distant hum of a train I can't yet see. The overhead fluorescent lights flicker, casting elongated shadows that stretch and shrink unpredictably along the tiled walls. Tonight, we're venturing into the domain of an unsettling urban legend, one that thrives beneath the city's polished exterior. We've all heard them, haven't we? Those whispered stories that swirl around in hushed conversations, the late-night tales that tap into our deepest fears. Urban legends reflect the collective anxieties of a city, leaving us to wonder where truth ends and myth begins. And here I am, about to share one such story, not just something plucked from rumour and hearsay, but an encounter that left me questioning everything I thought I knew. A haunting on the rails. Something I personally witnessed, or at least thought I did. A major subway line, one millions rely on daily. Maybe you recognise it, perhaps you've ridden it yourself. This line carries bankers, students, waiters, tourists, all pressed together in a metal capsule racing through the city's underbelly. The station where this occurred is old. You can see it in the cracked tiles and chipped paint. The advertisements are out of date and curling at the edges. It's late, close to midnight. The waves of people have receded, leaving me and a handful of strangers waiting in eerie silence. I remember the atmosphere clearly. The platform stretched out into darkness, the end barely visible. The escalators hummed softly, but no one ascended or descended. The usually busy corridors were empty, just ghosts of footfalls echoing in memory. Everything felt oddly suspended, like the city had paused, waiting for something to break the hush. My pulse picked up for no good reason. A tension hung in the air, subtle but persistent, as if the station itself were holding its breath. And then I felt it. A shift so sudden and dramatic that my heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the sound of footsteps or any visible commotion. Instead, it was as if the air temperature plummeted. I remember breathing out and seeing my breath as vapour. A hush fell even heavier, if that's possible. I caught a glimpse of something in the reflection of the glass panel behind me, a shape not fully formed, more suggestion than substance. When I turned, I expected to see a person standing there, maybe a commuter who had drifted into my peripheral vision. But instead, I saw nothing, just an empty corner of the platform where dust motes drifted listlessly under flickering light. I tried to shake it off. Lack of sleep, maybe, an overactive imagination, but a chill ran down my spine. Then the train finally arrived, rattling to a stop with a screech and a shower of sparks. The doors hissed open. I stepped inside alongside a few others, just a handful, maybe 5 or 6 people. We all settled in, deliberately spacing ourselves out as late-night riders do. The car's interior was lit by harsh fluorescent lights, the kind that make everything look washed out and slightly unreal. As the doors began to close, I caught that sensation again. Someone was watching me. Slowly, I looked toward the far end of the car. There it was, a figure perched on one of the plastic seats, hunched slightly, face obscured by the angle and shadow. Something about its stillness unnerved me. Everyone else seemed to feel it too. I saw them glance over, shifting uncomfortably, whispering to one another. The figure never moved, never reacted. Just sat there, as if floating in a void. The temperature seemed to drop again. My ears rang with the silence. The other passengers had that look. You know the one, that nervous flick of the eyes that says, are you seeing this too? A young man to my right pretended to scroll through his phone, but his screen was dark, and he was sneaking anxious glances. A woman a few seats away quietly tapped her foot, her eyes darting between me and the silent figure at the end of the car. No one spoke a word, but we all felt it. A collective, primal discomfort. And then we entered a tunnel and the lights flickered. In that strobe-like moment, I thought I saw the figure's face. Pale, hollow eyes, no discernible features, as if carved from fog. I blinked, and when the light steadied, it was turned away again. Still and silent. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling. I began to wonder if I'd encountered something beyond explanation. Sometimes cities carry dark histories beneath their shining surfaces. Could this have been a spirit left behind by some tragedy? old rumours floated in my mind. Derailments decades ago. Station workers who met untimely ends. A passenger who vanished without a trace. I dug into the local lore. Some believed the figure was the restless ghost of a man who fell onto the tracks in the 1970s. Others whispered about an old station that used to operate near that line, abandoned after a fatal accident. Some say it's not a spirit at all, just the manifestation of collective fear. After all, late at night, when the city sleeps, our imaginations run wild. Perhaps it was a hallucination, a trick of the light, an interplay of reflections on dirty windows. Yet, I know what I felt. And I wasn't the only one. Skeptics would laugh it off. They'd say it's just fatigue, anxiety, the mind playing games. Believers might tell you the subway lines are conduits, carrying not just passengers, but lingering souls, memories trapped in steel and concrete. Others might propose a more psychological explanation, that our fears create phantoms out of thin air, feeding on the silence and gloom until we see what we dread to see. But here's what unsettles me most. Everyone in that car felt something. It wasn't my private illusion. Whispers spread after the train arrived at the next station. Passengers disembarked, shaking their heads and muttering. One elderly man looked visibly shaken. A couple who'd been arguing softly now stood arm in arm, silent and pale. There was no agreement on what we'd witnessed, but we all knew something had happened, something that left its mark. I've shared my story, and it still makes my skin crawl. The memory refuses to fade completely. Maybe you'll dismiss it, maybe you'll find your heart racing just a bit faster the next time you step onto a late-night train. I only ask this, keep your eyes open. Listen to your instincts. And if you ever feel that sudden drop in temperature, that silence too deep to be natural, consider the possibility that you're not alone. Maybe the city's past is riding alongside you, waiting for a moment to make itself known. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever encountered something strange? Something that defied explanation? Share your own urban legends, your eerie experiences, or your take on what might be lurking in the shadows. Let's explore this together, and maybe, just maybe, we'll piece together the truth behind these spectral passengers on the rails. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and remember, some legends ride with us, whether we believe in them or not. If this chilling tale gave you goosebumps, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories like this. Thank you for tuning in to Ghostly Echoes. Until next time.